Welcome back. I'm David Nelson, host of the Traders Network show, broadcasting worldwide from the New York Stock Exchange on iHeart Radio and equities.com. We're here for an event being hosted by the United Nations Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative. And my next guest is Sunil Benimadhu, who's the CEO of the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. Welcome, sir. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
You know, I was looking over your background, Mr. Benimadhu, and you were appointed as director of the exchange back in really the dark days of 2008 and during the financial crisis. And here you are now as the CEO of the exchange. How did you manage to make that transition and accomplish so much over these last few years?
Well, ever since I joined the exchange, I've been driven by a number of goals. First of all, I think the stock exchange has a critical role to play in terms of unfolding the potential of economic growth. And therefore, the whole idea of being at the head of an exchange is to try to drive this agenda forward. And I've been driven by that together with my team so that, the Stock Exchange of Mauritius can play an important role in driving the growth of the Mauritian economy, bringing change to the lives of people, empowering the investor, but also creating the platform for companies to raise capital to fund their future growth and create jobs for the economy.
We were talking off camera and you mentioned that your organization has just joined the initiative at this point. What prompted that?
Well, I think we wanted to bring our very modest contribution to the international sustainable agenda. We think that as exchanges, we have, as I mentioned, a very important role to play in driving economic growth, but we have to make sure that this growth takes place within a very sustainable environment. I think we all know that the world is threatened by a number of potential calamities, climate change, and the impact that it is having. And coming from an island like Mauritius, which drives its growth and from its beauty, from the climate in which we live, I think it was fundamental for us as an exchange to bring our small contribution to the national agenda of positioning Mauritius as a sustainable island. But our drive to join the UN Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative is a clear indication of our willingness to bring this small contribution to the global agenda of sustainability.
Oh, that's well said. How is the exchange really positioning itself to get this message out to the members of your exchange, the companies that trade on your exchange?
Well, first of all, we embarked on what I call a voluntary exercise. So we wanted to showcase those companies that are championing the sustainability cause in Mauritius. So we went ahead and said the best way to show that is to create a sustainability index, which will track the performances of those companies that are really championing this cause. So we created a framework, defined the criteria of what a sustainable company is, and we use the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI criteria, which embraces 4 pillars of sustainability, linked to governance, linked to environmental concerns, linked to social concerns, but also linked to the economic agenda of companies. Because for me, a sustainable company is one which is taking care of its sustainability from a profit perspective, but also its sustainability from a transparency, governance standpoint, from the role that it plays within society, but also how well governed this company is. So we went ahead and created, this framework, identify all the criteria, and then invited the companies, to those that were volunteering to be part of that index, to demonstrate their compliance.
Is it a voluntary basis right
Yes, it has been voluntary. And I was pleasantly surprised because many of the large companies that are listed came forward and said, this is a good initiative. We want to be part of it because we want to also bring our own contribution to the national agenda of positioning Mauritius as a sustainable island. So once the companies went through this exercise, we identified those that met the minimum pass mark, which was about 60% weighted average of all the 4 pillars that I mentioned. And then we outsource the audit on the ground to an independent party to ascertain that what was said by the companies was actually what was on the ground. So then once we had, I think, about a number of companies that complied, we launched our index 2 weeks ago, and now this index is tracking those companies. And our whole objective is to encourage other listed companies that have not been part of it since the beginning to join later, and eventually, to encourage even the non-listed companies to emulate those that are driving this agenda.
Well said. Any last words that you have for the United Nations and the Sustainable Stock Exchanges Initiative as they launch their Sustainable Development Goals?
No, I think it's a great initiative because at the end of the day, as we had a discussion before I came to this interview, and it was made very clear by the UN representatives in that luncheon that I participated in, that UN can drive the agenda, but for it to be a success, it has to get the buy-in of the operators, the private sector people. And I think exchanges are ideally positioned at the intersection between the policymakers, the investors, and the listed companies. So I think it's a great initiative, and we really look forward as the Stock Exchange of Mauritius to be an active member of the UN Sustainable Stock Exchange Initiative and to drive this agenda, because at the end of the day, I think our whole future, the future of humanity depends a lot on how far we move forward.
I am sure that's true. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for these very interesting questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Sunil Benimadhu, CEO of the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. By the way, a quick thank you goes out to 1-800 Public Relations for all the PR and media support. Thanks for joining. I'm David Nelson.